Welcome back. My guest today is a good buddy of mine returning to the podcast. He's the founder of Seventh Level. He's an author, and he's probably the greatest sales trainer on the planet, the founder of the NEPQ method. It is Mr. Jeremy Lee Miner. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. At least my grandma tells me I'm the best ever. So, as long as grandma says I'm good, then I'm good, man. What's going on? Happy birthday, by the way.
I appreciate it.
You're looking younger and younger every year, like Benjamin Button, like you're aging backwards.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I turned 48. That's what's going to happen tonight. Tonight you came out here to celebrate.
Yeah, going to go to the dinner with you guys. Yeah. Check it out. It'll be fun, man.
I warned everyone beforehand. So I'll tell you a funny story. So my brother actually came out last week. And the reason why is because he has a girlfriend. And he's like, yo, I can't bring my girlfriend to your birthday party, Michael. Like, she's just going to yell at me. She's going to be mad the whole time.
I mean, if you're a guy and you're committed, you can still go and like hang out with the guys and not do something you're not supposed to do. Just, there you go. Just bring the girlfriend with,
Unbelievable. Well, you know what? This we could skip ahead here. The reason why a lot of the stuff that I teach works is because of something that you discuss a lot. Robert Cialdini, you talk about status hierarchies. I talk about that in behavioral psychology. Can you go over this concept of because you also talked about this with Ryan Pineda. Ryan Pineda, he talks about he'd be like, hey man, you follow me, let's go ahead and do the deal. He was using his status in order to make the sale rather than trying to be low status and trying to like beg for the sale. Can you go over how status just makes things easier?
It's all about, so I went to school for neuropsychology, study the brain and how that works in conjunction with your nervous system, right? So when you come across like you don't need somebody, now you don't want to come across like you're a douche, like you're being mean. Like I always say, to master persuasion and selling, it's all about mastering the emotional connection you have with that other human being, where they feel like, you understand their needs, their desires, their wants, even their fears, but do that without buying into their story and without judging them. Because if they feel like you're judging them, they're going to get defensive. So as far as like, talking with a girl, with what you guys do, teaching men of action, or making a sale or whatever you do, it's about getting them to view you as like an expert in that, whatever you're talking about. And I call that situational status. I know Oren talks about that. I've read one of his books before. It talks about situational status. And it's about really just coming across that where they view you differently. And we call that pattern interrupting. So you're interrupting a pattern. So like you had talked about it, because I'd read some of your stuff where when you go into like a lounge or something, right? And there's a bunch of guys you're with hanging out, and you want to go on some dates or something, or find some girls. What do most guys do? They walk around and they kind of look at everybody, and that's what every other guy's doing. So all the girls kind of probably notice that, and they're like, oh, they're the same, right? It doesn't matter what you look like, your wealth, whatever. They don't know that at that point. But the guys that come in and just kind of sit there, on the chair or whatever, and they just kind of talk, and they don't act like they even notice the rest of the room. In their mind, that's a pattern interrupt, because now your status is a little bit more elevated.
In her mind, it's a pattern, because that's not what she's used to. The same guy hitting on him over and over again. Have you ever read John Nash's Theory on Economics? He won the Nobel Prize for it.
I've not read that.
So he uses this analogy. There's a movie called A Beautiful Mind, and a book called A Beautiful Mind.
Okay.
In the concept, John Nash is like, you walk in, 10 guys walk into a bar. There's 9 brunettes and 1 blonde. Everyone wants the blonde. If everyone goes and hits on the blonde, everyone goes home alone. If everyone ignores the blonde, which is to a certain extent, is like if you consider each man their own firm, it's collusion, right? It's essentially a federal charge there.
Sure.
But if all the men collude to none of them hit on the blonde, then they all go home with someone.
It's true.
It's such a weird thing, but that's a function of economics. It's also a pattern interrupt, like what you said. We say break and rapport. You say pattern interrupt. Because that's what she's used to. And when I read Oren Klaff's book, I was just like, yo, he talks about avoid beta behavior. I'm like, yo, that's a dating term. He's like, avoid neediness. I was like, what? He goes, frame control. Yo, I've heard this before. I've heard these.
Some of it comes from NLP. It actually all the way, like, 'cause a lot of people ask me where I got it, where I developed NLP. I started developing it from like Sigmund Freud. So Sigmund Freud talks about like identity framing. So like NLP talks about framing, deframing, reframing, but it's not like NLP invented those terms. It more comes from like Milton Erickson, Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud taught that people make decisions based on the identity of the person who they believe they are. And so I always say people do who they believe they are. So if a person has some type of belief system, like if you're in a sales conversation, their belief system is, you guys sell to consumers. So let's say they have a belief system. They always have to talk with their dad before they make a buying decision. I guess in your case, they'd be single, right? I would hope so. But let's say like, oh, I always got to talk with my financial advisor before I can invest. That's their belief system or their frame.
Yeah.
So how do you take them out of that frame and then reframe them into a new frame where they don't feel like they would have to do that? Like they're the independent one, they can make their own decisions.
But
so a lot of it is identity framing when you're talking, even in your situation, to a female or whatever, you know?
But it also, you don't want to trigger the normal pattern.
Yeah.
I really did appreciate, because that's how I felt first when I started dealing with closers, having a closing team. It's like I would hear them say things and it would trigger something in me, even though I'm not being closed. I've heard this before, like what you said before. I love this.
Your brain recognizes patterns.
Let's talk about this so we can see if this program's right for you. And I'm like, no, they're going to take most people's money. So like
exactly.
You're doing these things and they're causing people's guard to be brought
it
up.
triggers their nervous system.
Yes.
So when I say disarming the prospect, scientifically what I mean is you're calming the nervous system, because the nervous system is what triggers you to go into fight or flight mode, right? And go surface. You could be on a sales call, or you could be talking to a woman or whatever, and you say something that she's used to every guy saying, or the prospect's used to every salesperson saying, and her survival part of her brain, as you know, like the guard goes up. They're like, oh, somebody's trying to do something to them. They don't even know why. It just happens because the brain recognizes patterns.
So
break the pattern.
And especially if you're a really attractive woman, or if you are like a B2C client, and you have a lot of money, and everyone, I'll tell you right now, the amount of people that will write me on Instagram, send me an email or whatever, trying to get me to do their, it's the same things over and over again, man. It's automated.
So when you see it,
immediately
you see the first 3 words, you're like, I'm done.
Yes.
It's like an email that a vendor sends you that you don't buy from, like, hey, just circling back. Hey, just checking in. Hey, just following up. You have heard that from every salesperson who's ever tried to sell you anything. So you don't even read what's after that. Your brain's already triggered and you just shut down.
The other one is, I'm sure you've had this with your podcast, people trying to get the 3rd biggest real estate broker in Sheboygan to come on your podcast, and because he hired a PR team. And then the problem is, immediately I'm thinking, if this guy had a following, he wouldn't have to do it. He would just reach out to me on IG. I was looking at his Instagram. I'd see the irrefutable visual evidence. And then that's how Joe Rogan reaches out to people for podcasts. And this is one of the things that I've noticed, is that people don't want to do the work and they just want to come on your show. But immediately that triggers for me.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing.
The patterns.
So the thing is, with the behavioral science versus sales gurus, this is something I thought was really interesting. Sales guru. So you would start doing door to door.
While I was in school.
While you were in school. Where were you at school at?
Utah Valley University.
Got it. So you are in school. You start doing door to door. They leave you out here. You're walking around 12 hours, sweating out there. And then you get to a situation where you're also studying psychology in college, and you're seeing there's this difference between what the sales gurus are telling you and what behavioral science is saying.
Yeah, because I had to discover it the hard way, because sales managers in that industry, at least mine did, was like, hey, you got to knock on 100 doors, and you're going to talk to 30 people, and we want you to sell 1. But in my brain, I'm always like, well, I can help all 30 people. Why can I only sell 1? So when I would knock on a door, and it would, the first couple of weeks didn't know what I was doing, it slam on my face. Most salespeople in that industry would be like, oh, people are mean here, or like this area is bad, or everybody's broke. They would make excuses. I just was reverse engineering. I'm like, oh, what did I say? Or like, how did I ask that question that triggered that reaction for them to slam the door? So I'm reverse engineering, like, oh, so, you start to recognize patterns. You start to like, oh, if I say this fast, they do that. So, you're just reverse engineering the process. And that's kind of how it all started,
You had an orange vest on at one point to disarm people. You had all these things.
Disarm
people.
Things. Yeah. It's like you're not taught that in school, but the theory, and if you understand the theory behind it, then you understand the principles. I always say, if you understand patterns, like pattern recognition is the number one to master anything. If you're an investor, you recognize patterns, right? If you're whatever, you recognize patterns, you can really master anything. So I would just recognize patterns and like, oh, everybody's wearing the same white shirt with the badge over it that sells anything from lawn care to Dish Network at the time to pest control. Like everybody looks the same. That's a pattern. So the prospect literally is the guards up as they come to the door. So I'm like, how do I break the pattern? Put on like a construction vest. I put on I even had like the leather gloves, like with the thing there. I had a tape measure here because you had to measure where the alarm system went. And I would wear like just a basic like $10 Walmart watch because everybody tried to dress up and be all cool. And just by that, I would never really get much rejection in the first 30 seconds to a minute because they just didn't know who I was. I was just interrupting a pattern just by changing my outfit.
A remote closer now, what could he do to not trigger some of those patterns?
Well, what are some predictable questions that most salespeople ask any prospect that sells remote or on the phone or really anything? What's the first couple of very predictable questions that most salespeople ask?
Hey, how you doing? How you been? How's everything going today?
Yeah. And you don't even, it just goes in one ear out the other, right? Yeah. It's like the waitress or waiter come to us, hey, how's your day going? Do you sit there, you don't even listen because you're like, they don't give a damn about my day.
My team, if they're watching this right now, they jump on me all the time because they're like, Michael, you never fucking ask anybody how they're doing. I was like, because I was in the military and I know you don't care anyway. If you have a problem, I'm going to solve your problem.
Yeah.
That's what I do if I care about you. I don't ask you how your day went.
Because do we really believe that the prospects genuinely?
Yes. Exactly.
Oh gosh, the salesperson asked me how my day was. No, they're like, he's just trying to get me to like him so they can sell me my thing. So instantly the guard's up by a stupid, predictable question because once again, it's a pattern that every salesperson does and the survival part of the brain recognizes patterns.
Yeah.
So instead you might want to come on there. I mean, you can relanguage it. You can be like, hey, what's going on in your neck of the woods over there? I mean, it means the same thing, but it's just a little bit different. You don't even have to do that. But if you're like, I gotta say, how you doing? Like, well, what's going on over there? Are you staying out of trouble or what's going on? Or whatever. But it's just things like that. Don't be predictable.
One of my favorite things I heard you say, and I had never heard you say this before until recently, which is emotionally connect without buying into their story.
Yeah.
The buying into their story is the big part. And you deal with this in dating and you deal with this with prospects.
Yeah.
Can you go into some of the stories where it's almost like they've already have a victim programming in?
Yeah.
And so if you buy into the story, there's no sale.
You offered them no value.
Correct.
You wasted their time. So a story could be you're calling an outbound lead and they're like, if this is going to take more than 10 minutes, like just call me back later. And you're like, okay, when do you want me to call you back? You just bought in their story.
Yeah.
Like legitimately, that's just a defensive mechanism that the prospect did. Instead, I might say, oh, yeah, just I've only got a few minutes myself before my next appointment and then go back in. I'm not going to buy in their story. Or if the prospect in your case is like, well, I've tried some of these, dating programs before, let's just say that, and they just didn't work out.
Yeah.
And that's the objection. Well, if I buy into their story, it's not going to be a sale. So, you want me to show you something cool?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we taught you these guys yet, but I would just reframe that. So if they're like, oh yeah, I've tried some of these things in the past, it didn't work. Now, what objection do we believe we're going to have at the end? Probably the same thing. Or they'll say, I want to think it over, but really they have a fear it's not going to work for them.
Yeah.
They're just not going to tell you that. So I'm going to use that to my advantage of like, wow, it sounds like you're the type of person that never gives up. So I'm going to start there. So I'm just reframing it's never worked out for me. Well, you're here now, so you're never giving up.
Yeah.
So I want to say it though. Like I want to change him into the identity of the person who becomes a buyer, right? Yeah. Identity framing. Wow, it sounds like you're the type of person that never gives up. And then I might say like, wow, now they wouldn't be married. So I'd be like, and you're, the people around you, they're lucky to have a person like you that is, that dedicated, that never gives up.
By the way, about 15% of my clients are married. They're actually,
okay.
It's confusing to a lot of people. It actually, because they're trying to build a brand or in a lot of cases, I end up helping them fix their marriage because their wife is completely.
So if they had a spouse, you would do it this way. And I'll show you a way not to do it with the spouse. Cause I haven't thought about that before. This is new, something that I need to tweak. Oh, wow. It sounds like you're the type of person that never gives up. And your spouse, she's lucky to have a provider like you that is that forward thinking and that responsible and knows that he has to make the hard decisions himself for the family. I talk to a lot of people and you'd be surprised how many of them, they say they want to, build their business and everything, but they just never do anything. You know what I mean? I mean, for you, like being that responsible, like where you can never give up to get to your dreams, is that something you're born with or something you had to learn? So it's this 3-stack frame. So I'm first going to label, wow, it sounds like you're the type. Type is a identity, type of person who never gives up. Then you go into the positive identity. Your spouse, she's lucky to have if I'm talking to a male, a provider like you, because that's bravo. Everybody wants to be a provider. A provider like you that is that responsible, that never gives up and knows they have to make the hard decisions themselves. So why would I say that knows they have to make the hard decision themselves? Because I'm trying to prevent the spouse objection.
Yeah.
I'm starting to deframe that. Okay. That's the positive identity. Then I'm going to go into the negative identity that they want. Now, even if they're not responsible, even if they always give up, even if they're not a provider, they're not going to argue with you. They're like, yeah, that's me.
You're right. Yeah.
That's me. And then I'm going to go into
It's
the
almost like astrology reading in a little bit.
I'm building them into the identity of the person who becomes a buyer, right? And then I'm going to go into the negative identity that they don't want to be a part of, which might be, I mean, I talk to a lot of people and you'd be surprised how many of them like say they want to, you know, get their Instagram fixed and really scale their business, but then they never do anything. You know what I mean? And they're going to be like, that's not me. And then I'm going to strengthen the new identity by saying, just watch how I do this, how I frame it. I mean, for you, like being that responsible where you know you have to make these hard decisions for your family, is that something you were born with or something you had to learn? Well, whatever they say, yeah, I've always been that way, or no, I had to learn. Now I'm starting to shift them into the new identity. So I'm just putting them into that identity that is the decision maker that can make these decisions and they never give up. So now I'm starting to eliminate the fear objection of maybe this is like the other things that haven't worked out for me.
You brought up this one, so I might as well bring it up because I get it the most from my sales team is I need a day to think about it. I need a week to think about it. The other one is I need to talk to my wife or business partner or whatever, but I need a day to think about it. What do you do at that moment?
Well, we all know that a think it over objection is not the real objection. Yes. Okay. So there's something that they have uncertainty about that's holding them back. And typically it all comes down to one, at the end of it, whether they say, I don't have the money, because it's not like you're selling a $10 million solution to a homeless person. It's not like they can't get the money if they really want to, 99% of the time. So any objection you get, think it over, spouse, will it work for me, money, whatever objection you get comes down to every human has a core fear of change, right? So they have to give you money for them to see what's on the other side of that change. So if we go into it knowing that every human has a fear of change, we can start doing stuff upstream to help prevent those objections. Because let me ask you, why do you feel like a think it over objection even happens? What causes that in their mind?
I already know.
Even though they got on there with you.
It's fear. Like it's what I think it is, because this is where I remember joining the military. They can tell we're really going to change them. They got on the call and they thought it was just another piece of, and then they're on there like, oh, these guys are from A to Z. They're serious. Yeah. And then the other part that happens with me is like, yo, they asked to get Michael on the call. Michael's on the call now telling me exactly what, this is real. This is boot camp. I need a day to think about it. I need a day to think about it. And then my whole thing is, no, this is your ego. It's a fear. It's the equilibrium that you found, because it's not that bad sitting there, living the life on dating apps and trying to find girls on Seeking Arrangement. Sure. That life's not that bad. And then you hear me talking and you realize, oh, he's really going to change me. It's invoking fear. I think that's what
it comes down to fear of change. So it's about triggering certainty in their brain where they don't have that fear, where they actually, it's reverse. I'm reverse framing, because when you do that the right way, they have more fear that if they don't do anything, that it's going to be way worse than if they do. Does that make sense? So an objection typically happens because the salesperson, a couple things. At the beginning of the conversation, they didn't get the prospect's guard down, so they've been very surface level. So we all know human beings don't make decisions logically, they make them emotionally. They justify with logic, right? Like, I feel like a drink of water because I'm thirsty. So we all start that. So that tells me that they didn't get the guard down. So that prospect was probably more surface level. And so when they were asking questions, the prospect probably gave them more vague, generalized, surface level answers. So when there's no emotion, it's hard for them to emotionally open up. And I always say there's two reasons. There's the two main emotional drivers that causes like a human being to want to change are pain of their current situation and their past history. So pain, and then a fear of future pain.
The prospect of pain.
And if we can't get them to feel the pain of their current situation in the past, and then have that fear that it could get worse, or maybe they don't have any pain now, but it could get really bad in the future, then they feel no need to change. And that's why you typically get those objections, because it feels like, I always say the brain, here we have this brain that's how many millions of years old, or that's debatable, right? And the brain was never designed for you to thrive. It was always designed for you to survive.
Exactly right.
And so that's why we have that fear, right? So it's like, how do we get them to like overcome that fear, to have certainty where they have more fear of not doing it than doing it? So going back to the objection, it's really just finding out what they want to think about. But if you just say, well, I don't understand, like, what do you want to think it over? They're just going to get defensive. Like, well, I just, I make these decisions, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, yeah, it's not a problem. What was it that you're wanting to go over in your mind, just so I know, what questions you might have when we talk again? Or typically I would even do it a little bit differently. So typically I want to disarm them first, because if I can't find out the real concern, it's unlikely they're going to get started. So I might say something like, yeah, it's not a problem. If you have your calendar hand, I can pull up mine and we can book a specific time the next day or two. That way you don't have to chase me down, vice versa. You book an appointment, and then when you're getting off Zoom, it'll be like, hey, no, before we talk in a couple of days, what was it that you were kind of wanting to go over in your mind, just so I know what questions you'll have when we talk on Tuesday? Most of the time, they'll tell you right there, well, it's just a big decision, and I'm not sure I have the budget. It's money. Sometimes they might not. Well, I don't really have any questions. Well, if you really thought about it, like, what questions do you have? Just when I come back, you're probably going to have some questions. And I want to find out whatever question they say is typically going to lead to the real concern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pain and the future prospect of pain. This is one thing I thought, if I just have enough testimonials and my product works good enough, then I shouldn't have to sell anything. And then I get in this field and I'm like, watching these other people in this space who, no offense, they're just not telling the truth.
Yeah.
And they're crushing it. And I'm like so confused, like what's going on? And then I start learning from you and some other guys. I start reading a ton of books on this. And then it goes over the concept of pain. Like you have to get them, instead of it just being, it would be great if it was just a meritocracy, right? Like I get better results, therefore I shouldn't even have to run ads.
Yeah.
But it's never like that.
It's how you frame it. It's not the value you offer, it's the perceived value.
Yes.
I call that the POB. It's the perception of the value that matters. So it doesn't matter if you show them 30,000 some testimonials. There's two types of people that they're talking to. They're talking to, the first type is probably 15 to 20% of your audience. They have more of a superior complex. They like you, they like your training, but they're just there for some tips. Maybe they follow you on social. They're just there for tips because they believe they can do it without you. Yeah. That's a superior type. So I have to handle them a little bit differently than the other crowd, which is probably about 80% of your audience, and they have an inferior complex. They're like, oh my gosh, the testimonies are great. It's so awesome, but it wouldn't work for me. Because they're like that, right? Yeah. They don't believe anything works for them because they've had those experiences. So it's being able to recognize the two types and then be able to like build them into that. Like with the superior, I've got to be able to seed more doubt in their mind of the cost of inaction, the COI. With an inferior person, I've got to build them in that identity of the person who can be successful during that conversation, that identity framing. Just like that example I gave you there.
Can you compare and contrast NEPQ to basic traditional sales training? Like what is the...
I can tell you what our clients tell us.
Okay.
Our clients, so the N stands for neuro, stands for like neuro, the brain plus nervous system. So that's why I put the N there. So I talk a lot about disarming the prospect to let their guard down. What I mean by that, just like I said, is how do I calm their nervous system? Now, how can you calm a nervous system? How can you disarm them? That's pretty much for the most part through your tone and your body language, even if you're on the phone. But if your guys are on Zoom, that's through their tone, that's through their body language. So like stupid stuff, I'm telling you, like a lot of people don't think about it, but you might be on Zoom. And I see a lot of like, cause we have clients that do this in our Inner Circle program, and we'll hear and watch the recorded calls and like do car reviews with them. And they'll come on there and they'll be like, they have their position of their camera where it like hits here. You can't even see anything here.
It's the worst.
There's no like, you always want to be down here. My buddy Mark Bowden, behavioral science expert, body language expert, is like, this is called the truth plane, the trust plane. So you want to be able to them to see you navel up, right? And that just goes back to hundreds of thousands of years when, if you're walking down the mountain and somebody has the hands behind the back, you might think they have a weapon, and that's still in our subconscious brain. So you don't think that he's going to rip through Zoom with a gun or a spear, but there's something off in your brain when you can't see down here. So that's one thing. Or coming up and like your camera's this way and you're looking down where you're like overbearing. A lot of people do that. And so it just sets it up for, to problems with them. So even when you get on Zoom, you want to be like that, but a lot of it is just like your tone, how you come across in the beginning. I talk about the 5 types of tonality frameworks you got to master. There's subcategories of those, that it gets really advanced. But like if I'm, with an inbound, it's a little bit different than if I'm cold calling or outbound. But if I'm an outbound, I want to have a familiar tone if they don't know who I am. Yeah, is this John? Yeah, it's Jeremy Miner with XYZ Company. You asked us to call you back. I sound familiar, right? Yeah. Rather than, John, hey, it's Jeremy Miner with XYZ Company. I sound like a telemarketer that's monotone. So brain recognizes patterns, guards goes up.
Yeah.
So the N stands for, neuro plus, how does the brain work with the nervous system? E stands for emotional. This is the part that most salespeople have no clue. We have to like literally train them what I mean by this. Tony Robbins talks a lot about this. And like I said, I'd take it a step further. In order to master sales persuasion, you have to master the emotional connection. So a lot of salespeople will ask a question and the prospect they feel like is really opening up, but they're still surface level. Like give me an example of maybe give me a question that your salespeople ask to help find a problem, or just any type of question.
The problem is usually like, how does this work? Where do I meet these girls? Are you guys paying them? What is the other thing? I don't want to be on social media that much.
But what questions are your salespeople asking?
Oh, the salespeople.
Yeah,
wow, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
The salespeople, my sales team, which works with you guys now.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's a lead quality thing, or they'll be like, these guys aren't financially qualified, or it'll be something to the effect of, like I said before, they keep asking for a day to think about it, or
what question would be? And I'm sorry, this is my bad.
Yeah.
What question would your salespeople be asking the prospect?
Oh,
to help,
my bad.
I thought you were
asking me
to help find a problem. Like,
for sure.
I haven't looked at your guys' sales.
Yeah, my bad. So to find the problem, they would be asking stuff like, so what brought you to us?
Yeah.
What was the pain that you were dealing with previously? What is the thing that you really want to change in your life? I think we have a survey that we give them beforehand. It goes, you said that you wanted brand building, a better network, and you wanted to date more attractive women.
Yeah.
What can you go into that more?
So walk me through. What are you doing now to, like, build up your net worth and like attract these beautiful women in your life?
Yeah.
So that's be like a situation question, and they would start to talk. But every answer they give you, there's going to be more surface level, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning of a conversation. How much trust and credibility do you have the prospect? Like, hardly any. So I have to build it up to ask more, bigger questions. So as they start to say that, I can automatically start seeding doubt, even at the end of situation questions. So as I'm building that gap, they might say something, or I might do this. I'm like, so help me understand. I mean, let's talk about give me an example of what they might say they're doing to meet beautiful women.
It's always the same thing.
Dating websites or something.
It's dating apps.
Okay.
It's or seeking arrangement, or it's cold approach, but like intent-driven pickup artist cold approach.
Okay.
That's generally what it is.
They just say they're on dating apps.
Yes.
Okay. It'd be so. I mean, you seem like a pretty good-looking guy. I mean, you're on these dating apps. What's causing you to feel like that's not going to get you the right one? But see, it's how I'm saying that at the very end. I'm more like a concerned tone, rather than like, you're on these dating websites, man. What's causing you to feel like they're not going to work out for you? See, that tone's not going to work because I'm not seeding it out. Like, when I come across that concerned tone, like, so, I mean, help me understand. And I'm kind of skeptical too. Like, help me understand, because you're, a good looking guy. I mean, you're on these dating apps. I mean, what's causing you to feel like that's not going to find you the right one?
Yeah.
So it's just, I'm pacing my tone. I'm verbal pacing the question, getting them to think. And even if they come back and they say like, well, I'm just always looking to get better. Well, what's behind that? What's going on?
Yeah.
So it's just like a lot of salespeople will ask that first question, and they'll get kind of some answer where the prospect doesn't really answer it. They kind of give a vague, generalized response, and they just go on to the next question on their script. But that's what I mean by buying their story is you just bought their story.
Yeah.
Because you have, like, they didn't really even answer you. They didn't really even open up about it. So I got to loop back around and be like, well, if you really thought about it, like, how many women are you really dating?
Yeah.
So like just things like that.
Yeah, the buying into their story, again, I listen to my closers sometimes, and you can see there's an objection, but the thing is, I don't know if you've had the same realization, it ends up being the same 6 objections or the same 6 primary driver emotions, maybe even 5, maybe even 4 for every single person, but there's this subterfuge in the beginning because they're afraid of it. And it comes from everything from addiction to pornography to a situation where they're paying women for their time.
That's what we have to do.
Yeah.
With your frames that I showed you, the winger, dabbler, know-it-all, or committed mastery, we need to incorporate in there. Then you got this person, they're the ones on seeking, they're the ones paying for the dates. And so, like, I'm going to help you with that. Yeah, I already got, that just gave me some ideas.
So let's talk about this. So you have these 4 different types that you teach. And one of my lead sales trainer, Tyler, he saw them and he was like, yo, what if we did the same thing, but for our clients?
Yeah.
So I reached out to you and then you explained to me winger, dabbler, know-it-all, and committed to mastery.
Yeah.
Can you go over that?
Yeah. So I believe there's 4 types of people in life in any profession. So we use this for salespeople, right? But I believe, it could be an athlete, it could be a mom or dad in a relationship, it could be, a preacher. I don't know. It could be, what you guys do, these type of people that date and stuff like that. So the winger, I'll just explain it to you. So I'll give you the overview. So what I'm doing is I'm putting them into identities that they do not want to be in. And these are real identities. This is not something that I'm making up. I always say selling is not something you do 2 people, selling is something you do 4 people, right? Because if you can't sell to them, you can't solve their problems. They don't get what they want. So I'm doing this for them. So like I'm placing them into an identity that they are, but they probably never thought about it. And it's a negative identity they don't want to be in. They want to get to the one that's committed to mastery. So a salesperson, they obviously want to do what? They want to sell more.
Yep.
They want to make more money. Companies, same thing. They want to sell more. They want to make more revenue. They want more profit margin. So a winger, listen to everything I say here on the winger. So the winger is the salesperson that says something different to every prospect. They don't know what works. They don't know what doesn't work. And when they don't make a lot of sales, who do they typically blame?
The leads.
The leads are bad. My prospects are broke. Like they have a lot of fear, and they never blame their lack of skill level. And where most of those salespeople go, they get fired. That's the winger. See, I already know about probably 30% of any salesperson is a literal winger. Those things I just said there, they're like, that's me. Because they're like, I'm the one that they'll just say it. Like they always blame the leads. They don't know what they're saying. That's the winger. Now what I always do at the end of there, I'll give you, I don't want to do this. Tactic shown as a tactic blown, but I'm doing this for them. Like, now I'm not saying any of you are a winger.
I do this all the time.
Right. So
I'm not saying this. I'm not saying you would pay a girl
you're
for
a
seeking
winger.
arrangement, bro. I'm just saying some people have done that.
Which you really are saying that they are. But it's the way it's say
Exactly
it's just a frame,
Yeah.
right? It's a frame. So, and I'm doing that to them. So they're like, oh, that is really me, right? Now, the second type of person, this is the dabbler. So the dabbler, they buy a couple sales books per year. Maybe they come to a free event. Maybe they buy some cheap sales course, $100, $200. Maybe they follow like somebody like me on basic rows on IG or YouTube, and they believe the lie that if they just stay in long enough, if they just get enough reps, that eventually, hopefully they'll figure it out, which we all know that strategy takes years, if not decades,
Yeah.
right? And that's where most salespeople are. That's why they're average. If they ever get good, they're forced to play the numbers game. They work 12, 14 hours a day, and they eventually burn out. That's the dabbler. I just described about 70% of the people listening right there.
And
the dabbler.
this person you said is going to buy he's going to buy the low ticket offer or the free stuff, but like never really invest.
Yeah, see, that's a dabbler, right?
Yeah.
So I'm basically deframing them out of like thinking they can master selling from books, because we all know you'd never master anything from books.
Just so everyone has some context here, the first time Jeremy came on, we were not working with him, and now we are. And Jeremy, before we started working with him, had already bought my course.
Yeah.
So the idea that we, as people who sell info products, who sell courses, if it was a scam, why are we buying more courses?
I'm always learning. I can take what you're doing
Yes.
that has, it's persuasion and influence, and I can be like, okay, so they call it this. All that means over here is it's a disarming technique to get the guard down. I'm like, I like the way they frame that, and then I can take it to what I do and make it for what I do.
Yes.
Right. So I'm always learning. I had Dean Graziosi on my show the other day, and I'm like, I'm a student. I know nothing. Like I always try to be like, I know nothing. I'm just learning here. Till the day I die, I'm trying to learn. So the dabbler is I'll get and then I'll say, and here I learned this from Tony Robbins. I went to Date with Destiny last December because I wanted to see the framing techniques that he was doing. It's really brilliant. Literally probably one of the best I've ever seen. And so what I do after the dabbler is I'm like, instead of saying, and I'm not saying any of you are a dabbler because I just use that, I'll lean in and I'll say, and all of you know somebody who's a dabbler in sales intimately, don't you? Intimately, don't you? And I pause there and people are like, yeah, I'm a dabbler. They just know it, right? And then the third type. So I know the third type is, I call it the know-it-allers, because I know that there's some that think they know everything. That's your one that has the superior complex, right? So I know I got to get them too. So I'm like, then you have the third type. Those are the know-it-allers. They initially invested quite a bit of funding into sales training. They got good. Maybe they got up to 6 figures, multiple 6 figures a year higher. Then they got a big head, big ego, thought they knew everything about selling. They stopped investing their skill level and their income gets capped. That's the know-it-all. See, everything I just described in all three of those picks up everybody.
Yeah.
There's nobody who does not pick up as a salesperson or a business owner. Everybody was like, that's me. And so those are negative identities they don't want to be a part of. Okay. So literally, I'll teach this to even some of our guys and they'll miss half of that. And I'm like, well, it's not landing because you're not getting everybody. Like literally every word I said in all three of those, subconsciously, psychologically, I'm doing every single word for a reason, everything I'm saying. And then there's a fourth person. Those are the ones who are committed to mastery. They're always investing their skill level because they know the number one thing that determines how much they get paid is what? Their skill level. These salespeople, they don't want to learn from their mistakes. They want to learn from other people's mistakes so they don't make the same mistakes themselves. That's why they sell 100x more. These are your top 1%. They know training is not something you did. Training is something you do if you want to be in the top 1%. Now, I want you guys to all look at what I just showed you. Which one of those do you feel you are now compared to where you want to be? Write that down. Just the tone shifts there. So we're going to come up with those for yours. I'm already
I'm
getting
already- I'm
ideas
already-
like this person does this, this, and this.
The know-it-all is the easy. Like I already know
Yeah.
the guy who comes on the call, he tries to break down what we do,
Yeah.
and he goes, "Oh no, I can do all of this on my own." And like,
Yet he's on the call.
I have a,
because he hasn't mastered.
you and I have a very unique offer where it's like I could tell you everything, and you have no shot of doing this on your own. No offense, I know some guys out there think I'm making this up, but if I put you, it's like. It's like saying, what book, Michael, can I read to bench press more? I was like, no, you have to go to the gym.
Yeah.
The idea that I'm going to put you in front of 6 perfect 10s and you're not going to flinch, you're not going to look at their boobs, your voice isn't going to crack.
No.
You have no chance, bro. And like, so it's so funny when they're all like, oh, I can do this on my own. Bro,
Here's the thing.
You can't even dress well.
They would never respond to your ad if they felt that way.
For sure.
That's what I always think. Like anybody that responds to an ad is basically raise their hand like, I think I have some problems here. They get defensive. It's defensive reaction, right? It's our brain survival. Like I'm going to be safe. I always say anytime the brain senses that there's change, because change is always unfamiliar. It's something that's unknown. It's like the brain's last attempt to keep you safe in the status quo. Literally, that is what is the brain freezes up on a human being. So it's like you have to help them overcome that freaking fear of change so they actually get what they want. That's why they got on the call, because they actually want what you have.
Yeah. It's the same, but it's the same thing in your industry, because the idea that it's like, could you hypothetically over 25 years make enough mistakes to get to, Jeremy Minor? Maybe. But could you, like even you stood on the shoulders of behavioral psychologists beforehand? Like
I've read, and I didn't master anything. I would say books or like the window to what is possible. I would say a book is like an overview of what is possible, but you have to go through courses. You have to get like role playing and training and coaching. It's like the neurosurgeon thinking that they're going to master brain surgery from books. No, they have to freaking go in and do the surgeries, and they have to go through all that. That's why it takes them so many years. But you have to be taught by somebody. Here's the biggest mistake people make in their lives. They're never taught by somebody who's mastered the thing itself.
Yes.
And you are setting yourself up. We all know if you're taught, like Michael Jordan says, you can shoot 1,000 jump shots a day, but if you're taught the wrong technique, you're still going to suck at basketball, right? So you have to have a step-by-step plan you got to follow each day to master something, taught by somebody who's actually mastered the thing himself. And that's where a lot of people get that mistake is they're like, well, I'm watching some stuff on YouTube and stuff. Well, that's basic content. We're not going to release client training on YouTube, but they don't know what happens before. They don't know like, oh, if this question doesn't land, you have to say this. They don't know that, hey, before you ask this question, you have to do this, this, and this with your tone to get it to land. They don't know any of that because they're like trying to put together this 500,000 word, puzzle with like 3 pieces.
Yeah. They watch the UFC and then they think they know jujitsu.
That's a good.
Yeah,
that's
and then
valid,
they get their
butt kicked. I feel bad for them,
and I'm looking at this guy like on the screen. I'm sorry to pick on some of you, but it's like they don't know how to use Zoom. Dude, I can tell when a guy sucks with women because he doesn't know how to use Zoom. Yeah. Like you said before, it's like I'm looking up his nose.
The face, the face is down,
and the light. There's a big light behind his head.
There's a ceiling fan.
Yeah, there's a ceiling fan. There's a big light.
The light looks weird.
And the ISO is off, and I could barely see what he looks like. And I'm like, there's no way that you know how to use social media or talk to attractive women. It's not possible. And so, and then the haircut is irrelevant. They're like, and they're like some people, I get it. You have different metabolisms and they're out of shape and they're a little bit heavier, but it's like being out of shape and then being like, I give up. I'm going to go to Colombia or I'm going to go to the Eastern Europe and go get a good woman. And I was like, why don't you lose the weight first?
I would never do that. I'm single now. My girlfriend and I broke up a while ago. We know about that. And I would never throw her underneath the bus. She's awesome. But like, I would never pay to go on a date because look at your status. Like, why would you pay to go on a date? Like, you're automatically lowering your status. Like, what are you trying to do? You're just wasting money. That would be like the idiot that goes to like a strip club and thinks that something's going to happen and they just waste thousands of dollars.
Yes. You can start with status and then move to money, but you can't do it the other way around. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like if you're the guy who buys friends, you can't then make them genuinely care about you.
Exactly.
But you can do it the other way around. So I had one client I was talking to last night, and on his IG, he just leads with money. Everything's a Richard Mille or a Bugatti or whatever. And I'm like, hey, there's only one type of girl that you're going to get from this because you lead with money. And when you get her, she can never truly sexually desire you because you led with money.
Yeah.
But if you do it but then I was like, hey, have you ever seen a girl that you wanted to get with that other guys were with? Yeah. I'll bet they didn't have a Bugatti or a Richard Mille, but they still got the girl.
Yeah.
What does that mean? They had genuine sexual desire for this guy. Yeah. And then once they get into a serious relationship, maybe they move in together. she becomes the mother of his children. Then he can spend money on her. But they do it they do it the wrong way.
And women, they recognize patterns too, because they're being hit up by a lot of wealthy guys as well. So now it's going to come down, okay, everybody's wealthy here. Which one looks better? You know, they could be that too. And a lot of it, they just hear. So I always say money talks, wealth whispers. Like
wealth whispers.
I don't talk, like anybody that comes up to me and starts talking about how many boats they have and like cribs they have in Miami and stuff, I immediately think you're full of shit. Because why would you ever talk about, I don't even know who you are, right? Like when I was dating my girlfriend, like she didn't even know I had real estate for like the first 8 months. Why would I need to bring it up? Doesn't even matter.
My ex did not know what a podcast was. Everyone was like, she's just with you because you're rich. And I'm like, what do you, I have an Apple Watch and I drive a Lexus with 120,000 miles. She didn't even know what a podcast was.
It's just
because they don't understand genuine desire.
Exactly.
And it's the same situation. Like I'm sure when you talk about buy into their story,
she looks at you as the tribal leader.
Yes.
Like it doesn't matter if she thought you were wealthy or not. She just followed.
When you said don't buy into their story, a lot of the guy's story is I'm too short, I'm too brown, I'm from a small town, girls don't like me.
You know why they do that? It's a defensive mechanism in your brain that makes you feel better about yourself and why you don't have what you want.
You belong to a group of victims. Bro, I've said this before. The quickest way to grow on social media is to make a safe place for victims. And that's everything from MAGA to BLM to feminism to all of it.
True.
If you make a safe place for, obviously I'm not saying all those people are victims.
Sure, of course.
But if you create a safe place for, the world did me wrong and my job got taken away because of this, or my rights got taken away because of this, you create a safe place for victims. I've said this before. You know, my father was killed by a drunk driver. I am not a victim to her. I'm not, because I choose to not be a victim.
Well, look at Oprah Winfrey. Grew up at African-American in the 1960s, all the segregation, the racism. Is a 13-year-old, had a stillborn baby. Her mom had her when she was 13 or 14. What the effing chance? What are the chances that woman becomes Oprah freaking Winfrey? Because she didn't let her circumstances define who she was. She didn't play the victim card. She took it. You know, Tony Robbins says, life doesn't happen to you, life happens for you. And she rewired her brain, and this happened for me, and I'm going to go help people. It's literally like she could have went the other way, and now she's worth $3.8 billion.
It's wild. And the other side of the coin is how good being a victim feels. It's so, my buddy Owen Cook says, the warm blanket of victimhood.
I just started following him there.
He's incredible.
He followed me. I looked on his friends. Is he do what you do?
He's one of my best friends. He's Owen. He came more from the traditional pickup space, but now he does. He's more of a mindset. I would say the main thing. He's probably the best public speaker I've ever seen. But because his offer is so politically incorrect, you probably never heard of him. But I've never seen more people get up and cry and like, yo, this is the greatest
emotional
connection ever. So that part is great. But like he was talking about the warm blanket of victimhood, right? And it really is one of these things where you kept talking about buy into their story. I've seen this before. So let's talk about from both perspectives. The guy is dating a girl. She doesn't ever meet up, but she keeps asking for money because she hurt her back. She needs money for her car. Her dog has eczema.
The girl from Ukraine or something.
She's from Ukraine.
You never meet.
And you never meet her. And so what's happened is, so now she's like, I'm going to buy into her story because I want her approval. And of course the story is made up. In this case, it's deliberately made up. And then in the situation with what you're talking about, people will have like sort of a victim mentality and they're, well, I can't do this because I need some time to think about it. I'm not the type of person who makes a decision on the first call.
And where has that gotten you financially?
Yes, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
But as a salesperson, we have to learn the skills that we have to, if we don't understand, like we say, hey, a lot of these people think this, but like if you don't understand why they think that way, then you're never going to learn how to help them overcome it. And that's why it's so important to master sales and persuasion, because you have to understand why their brain is doing that. And you have to, because you can't know what to do if you don't understand why it happens. And that's what we teach. We teach the why, and then you got to teach the how, right? A lot of times people teach the how, but they don't understand why, so it never lands, because you can't emotionally connect if it doesn't land, but you don't really know what to do next, And that's why. So anyways, we're going all over it. So the P in NEPQ stands for persuasion, self-persuasion. So how do I frame my offer? I always say, I was talking, do you know Dan Henry? He's like an internet marketing guy,
I'm
big guy. I was just on a show a couple months ago, and we were talking about framing, and like he had this really good analogy of a picture frame, and I'm going to use it today. So all credit to him. So let's say you have 2 family pictures up on your mantle, your family, your mom, your dad, siblings, all that stuff. two exact pictures. Now you have to go out and buy two picture frames to go over them. One frame you buy is like immaculate gold, like just the most, like it looks like a Donald Trump frame in a Trump Towers. Yeah. It's like all gold, right? Right? The other frame, you go to the flea market, it's like got cobwebs on it. It looks like somebody stepped on it. It's kind of broken. Same family picture. Which one are you going to buy? You're going to buy the one that's framed better. So my point is, most people have really, really good products and services, but because they don't know how to frame them, they don't know how to sell their products, they don't know how to frame that perceived value, they will get outsold 20-1 by the product or service because that person knows how to frame their offer better. They just know how to frame it better. Yeah. Where the perception of the value is 10 times higher, even though the thing is not that valuable. Yeah. And that's why your communication, your framing skills is the number one thing you have to master if you want to scale a business or you want to sell a lot. Well, doesn't matter how great your product or service is, because in a prospect's mind, they don't know all the differences in all the products and services compared to your competition. They just think it's all the same.
Yeah. Can you go over the concept in selling of where it goes too far? Like one of the reasons why we've been able to stand out in this industry is because I don't make outlandish promises in my marketing. And then when you get in the program, I actually provide more, because it ends up being spoiler alert, it's a military training program. That's what I try to teach you, to be a military officer. And on the way to doing that, you're dating the girl of your dreams.
Sure.
And so when I have guys come through the course, they say like, oh, okay, he actually provided everything he said. And so down the line it works, but the marketing is not that bombastic. And what I mean by that is, I see other marketing in this space, and it's like, say these 3 words and get the girl of your dreams to show up by never going out, never going to the gym, being broke, being fat. And it's like, but his upfront offer, he's getting more leads. Now they're garbage leads for a lot of part because one of my least favorite type of lead is I want something for nothing lead.
Sure.
Can't stand that guy.
The freebie.
The freebie guy.
The cheapo people.
He's making the world worse.
Yeah.
But like, where does the line happen for you where we've gotten into the point of exaggeration, or do we never even get to that point because you're just asking questions?
I think with our marketing, we have a legal counsel, we have compliance officer, we have to with our size. And so like like most sales trainers that are small, they'll be like, hey, learn how to make $50,000 a month, which, there's no way you can guarantee that, because you can't guarantee that you're going to go through the training and do anything with it, right? So we just flip it like, hey, we're going to train you the skills it takes for you to like triple your sales and force your company to pay you more.
Yeah.
So I'm just framing it different. It means the same thing. I'm just framing it differently to get the same result.
You're not triggering the FTC, because we've had the same conversation.
I'm not promising anything.
I'm not promising. Yeah,
I promise you I'm going to train you the skills that it takes so you can sell more, which forces your company, when you sell more, to have to pay you more.
Yeah, I have 4,000 clients right now that have gone through the program. And one thing I do promise is, if you follow my instructions, you will have results. Yeah. That's the only thing I promise. But they have to actually
It's the same thing. Like if I do like a virtual event, we had a virtual event like a month ago that we had like 14,000 people on there. Yeah. And I said like, somebody in the comments was like, hey, what's the guarantee? I was like, well, what's your guarantee? Because here's what I can guarantee you. Like I'm going to guarantee you that we're going to train the skills necessary it takes for you to hit the goals that you want and cause your company to have to pay you more. Now, I can't guarantee that you're going to follow the training and actually implement it and actually follow through and do everything I tell you to do. You have to guarantee that to me. All I can guarantee is I'm going to teach you the skills that it takes to get to there, and you have to actually follow my training. That's all I can guarantee you. And everybody's like, yeah, that makes sense, because that is truth. That is reality, right? I can't force them to go through the training and use it, but I'm going to train you the skills. I can guarantee you that. So as long as you're compliant, I'd have to see it's a lot of it is just the hook. Like I'm going to do like a problem. Like I'm going to focus on like, hey, I'm going to tell you one question that salespeople ask that totally kills most of your deals. So that they're like, what is it? What's the question, right? And so I'll start with that in the ad, and I'll go through what it is. Now, typically the reason why people in your space come to us is because they want me to train them how to reframe the question. So you could use this. Now, if you want to learn more about this, click here to get this and this, resource, blah, blah, and then they go through the funnel. So it's hooking them in with like a problem that they, like with yours, like, hey, if you're a guy that like, what would be a problem that a lot of guys have? They go to a club and they do what?
They go to loud clubs and get rejected by women they wouldn't even be interested in, and they don't get matches on dating apps from women that they don't even find attractive. Like below that, they can't get them to.
Yeah. If you're a guy and you notice that when you go up and talk to that beautiful, 9 or 10 brunette, and she looks at you like, what would they do? Looks at you
here's the thing, Jeremy.
I want to trigger like an emotional
There's no 9
thing.
or 10s that go out anymore.
Well,
Like what you're saying is correct, but it's like,
to some guy that might be a 9 or 10.
Yeah,
that's really a 5 to you. So if you're a guy that goes to the club and when you see that like 8, 9, or 10, you go up to them and you start talking and they look at you like you're just another dude. You want to come over here? I'm going to show you why that happens.
Yes.
It's just you're hooking them in because like, yeah, that's me. You know, so it's just like
they're like identifying it with.
They're identifying with
that's
a feeling. They're
that's another
feeling.
story. Once I started training in field, I noticed that rejection they're feeling, there was nothing.
Yeah,
like we literally have it on camera. It's like she did nothing, bro. You're so neurotic because of trauma that you've gone through with your previous relationships that you literally imagined a rejection that never happened.
Yeah.
It's madness. And I see, in fact, I would say most of the rejections that I hear these guys getting, the girl was like, oh, and then she looked away for a second and scratched her face and looked back. And he's like, she didn't respond to me. I was rejected. And it's like,
or maybe she didn't hear you.
No, exactly right. Yeah, that's another thing. We should actually talk about this. So you do selling from stage, right? So you do some speaking. Bill Walsh is a good buddy of mine. We started hanging out, and then Owen Cook is he's the most vicious seller on stage I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The vocal tonality. Have you ever heard? It's a really funny joke. So I'm friends with Jeremy Piven. You know, from he played Ari Gold. He played Ari Gold on Entourage. Okay. And Jeremy, he does this routine because he's a comedian now, and he goes, The Rock, highest paid actor in Hollywood, never took a single acting class. Do I sound bitter? And he goes, hey, can you people in the back, can you hear me? And they're like, yeah. It's like, that's because I took a acting class, right?
Right.
And so here's the thing. I've noticed that in social situations, if they can't hear you, I get this all the time. I'm introverted, Michael, I'm quiet. If they can't hear you, you come off as creepy and low status.
Weird.
If you have to get them to repeat themselves.
Yeah.
And the same thing I think in your situation, because you're talking about status hierarchies a lot, it's this concept of like, I, Michael, want to be this killer sales guy or really good with women, but I still want to be introverted and quiet. And it's like, you know what's better? Playing center in the NBA when you're 17.
You can literally still be introverted and quiet, and the way you walk in the room communicates everything, where they look at you as like the highest status person in the room over everybody that's like talking like crazy, right? Because a lot of guys, when they get nervous and have anxiety, talk too fast, right? Yeah. So you could literally come into that lounge or whatever, go over and sit in the corner of a couch and just kind of spread out and just kind of like look and talk with somebody and not hardly say anything. And people are just going to notice you because you stand out, right? And it's the same thing we were talking about when I first came in here. You were talking about a lot of guys will go into these lounges or clubs and they walk around in circles, right? To check out all the girls. And it's like the 50th group that's done that night. And the girls recognize the pattern, right? Yeah. Whereas the high status guys, they don't do that. They just walk in, keep to themselves over the side, and they're just talking like they don't like anybody. They don't care. And just by that, just that detachment, it automatically attracts people like, who are those people? Like, what's going on? I don't have to be the most extroverted. I could be introverted, but just the way you come across, your tone when you do talk, like, there's so many, I'd have to get the context here, but I show you, but like, when you're talking about, you asked me something about selling from stage.
Selling from stage,
yes, go back to that question. What was the question?
So if you selling on stage, there has to be, so when you talk about the different tonalities, I think of different pitches a pitcher has. And if he only throws fastballs, he's just this intent military training instructor just yelling at you all the time. Yeah. But sometimes you throw a change up and sometimes you throw a slider. And so that's where the tone, like in order for the quieter tonality to work, you have to be a little bit more intense.
You can't talk like that the whole time because it sounds monotone. There's different people. I call that vocal framing. So you're framing through your vocal cords. It's your tonality shifts, right? So if you stay in one tone, the entire conversation, whether it's a sales call, whether it's selling from stage or speaking from stage, people zone out. Like the brain can't pay attention, right? So I might be like, hey, I might start off with, typically when I go off on stage, like I don't come out, I want to break the pattern. So I don't go out and be like, hey, how's it going? How's everybody doing? Everybody excited? I don't want to do that because the 10 speakers before me did that. So people zone out like just another dude. I walk out and there's about, Ben will tell you, because like the first time he saw it, he's like, dude, what's going on? But there's about 10 or 12 different things that I do. I never do the same thing. I just read the crowd right when I do it and I make a split decision which way I'm going to go. So I walk out on the stage and I'll just stand there for about 10 to 12 seconds, complete silence. Really? And I look around like this, and you know what everybody's doing? They put down their phones, they're going like this, and they're leaning in because I'm triggering.
This is awesome. Yeah.
It's a pattern interrupt. Yeah. They've never seen something like that. Yeah. And they don't know what's going to happen next. It's like a mystery. Nobody leaves to go to the bathroom. Everybody's putting their phone down. I have their full intention. Then I step off the stage and I'll walk around like up the aisle, and then I'll just kind of sit there and I'll just stand there and I'll kind of go like this for like another 5 to 7 seconds. And like, shit, he's going to call me. What's going on? So I'm out in the audience. And then I'll come over there and I have a mic, and I'll come down and I'll ask him a question to put him on the spot. You ever seen that Wolf of Wall Street where he does that with a pen at the end?
Yeah.
I don't do the pen because I would never steal the idea, but I have different things that I ask them to sell. But I might be like, what do you sell? So that's great. Why should I go with you? And I put in their face like, and then I'm like, and then I take it, I'm like, why should I go with you? Right? So like this commanding, why should I go with you? Right? So I'm commanding, and then everybody's like, shit, what's going on? Or the other one I did the other day, I just walked up, I was like, what do you sell? What makes you different than everybody else? Boom. And they're like, they just don't know. And then I'll bring them up on stage and I'm like, hey, if I ask your competition the same question, why should I go with you? Or what makes you different than anybody else? What do you think they might say? And like, well, they'd probably say that they're number one. They would do this, basically saying the same thing they just said. And then after I take them through, I'm like, okay, so what I think, then I turn out to us, I think what I heard all of you just say in your mind is that in your prospect's brain, you all kind of sound the what? And they're like, the same. Yeah. And then I say, could that be a problem for you? And instantly I just created a problem in the audience's mind. Yeah. So that's an example of a pattern. There's a lot more stuff, but I will go in there and I'll be like, look, now, do I have, I'll get in there, I'll be like, and I'll be a little bit more aggressive. Like, do I have your permission to like help you guys get to the next level? Because if I was your fitness trainer and if I just gave you like the little, the pink 2.5 pound weights and said you lift, I wouldn't really be helping you, right? No, you got to get the big weights. So if you want to, do I have your permission for me to challenge you during here? And I'm like talking like this, and then I'll get in here and I'm like, how many times are you going to let that happen? But I'm shifting down to that concern tone. Then I'm more challenging. Then I'm more like neutral, more like an expert. So it's always shifting the tone, keeps the audience like so engaged. They literally they have to stay because it's like a mystery to them.
Yeah. Well, but the other point is it only works if you can shift, right?
You know how to shift and why. Yes. You're not just making up tones. Like there is a psychological reason you say it, this sentence, this way, right? If I want to, lean in and be like, how many sales have you lost just this week? How much is that costing you? Because I'm concerned for you. I'm showing empathy. And I actually am showing empathy. I'm not doing this to make it up. I'm not doing this to them. I'm doing this for them so they open up emotionally. But if I'm like, how many sales have you lost this week? Then they're going to get defensive. Well, you don't understand. The leads are bad. You see? So it's knowing when to use the different tones and why. If you don't understand that, you're just winging it, winger.
Avoid. So one of the things you said you heard you don't agree with is if you get more objections, then that means they're more invested. And you're like, no, that doesn't sound.
Doesn't make any sense. Tell me how that makes sense.
Yeah.
How many laydowns did you get? You got a laydown. They gave you no objections. Yeah. That doesn't make any sense, right? People that say the more objections you get, the more they're interested. Tell me how that makes any sense. Exactly. Because what about the laydowns that gave you no objections? The more objections you get, the more you've triggered uncertainty in the brain, the less likely they are to buy.
So there's dealing with objections and then there's just avoiding objections.
I want to prevent objections.
Yes.
Objection prevention. A lot of that is through identity framing that I'm talking about. So I'll show you like a cool frame that we teach most engineers. I actually taught this to your guys. I'm hoping they're using it because I did one of the group sessions for the trainers. I'm going to like beat them up if they're not.
Yeah.
So after you go through the first couple connection questions, you can't do this as the first question because it'd be awkward. But after you go through 2 or 3 connection questions before you find out their situation, you're like, and it's so happy we're connecting, Bob, because, it's interesting. I was just on with this guy like 20 minutes ago. I mean, the type, like one-word answers, completely closed off, thought they knew everything there was to know about like getting, picking up women. And we all know that just comes from fear. I mean, we all know that guys who can't open up about their problems, like to tell you like why they're not getting the woman of their dreams, like how are they ever going to fix that? You know what I mean? Anyways, what were you hoping could happen by possibly working with Michael?
That's crazy.
So what am I trying to prevent?
Yeah.
One-word answers, closed off,
yes,
and think they know everything. So now, by default, that's a negative identity frame. So it's hard for him to be like giving me one-word answers, closed off, and saying acting like he knows everything after I just talked about the type of guy. And we all know that just comes from fear, And so it's just that type of stuff prevents that from happening.
Prevents the objections.
Because if I can prevent him. Like if I can't prevent him from letting his guard down, I can't connect with him emotionally.
Yeah.
And that is so important. Like so many salespeople think that, I need a closing technique at the end. No, you need to learn how to disarm them from the very beginning and emotionally connect, because when you ask them like, which training program do you want? This one or that one? I want that one. That's not when they decided to buy. that they had already decided to buy based on the conversation when you ask the closing question. That's not when they decide when you try to close. They already decide what they're going to do before you even try to close it, okay? So that's objection prevention. And if you don't master that, you're literally just losing like a lot of sales. Let's just put it that way, bluntly.
So you have, you know, a pretty sizable company that sells an info product, and you also do training, which, you know, same thing that what we do. And I'm curious how many products you have. So we have our first LTO that we just came out with a couple of months ago. It's been fantastically successful because it's been able to screen for more of a doer, which is what we want. The program's called Men of Action, not Men of I need a day to think about it. And when we get these action takers that come through the LTO, it's been fantastic. And I discussed this with you before, concept of the LTO. I'm curious.
In the fourth group, they're committed to mastery. They're men who take action. I'm already starting to put this frame to you, bro. We're going to talk about this tonight.
I've designed it.
You're starting to
take notes.
Yeah, I'm starting to design this as you're telling me.
Take notes.
My brain is weird.
So the different things that you have. So I'm curious with your
which
company,
training programs do we have?
All with so how many low ticket, mid ticket, high ticket different things do you offer? Do you include affiliates with your sales at all? And I know you have several books, ebooks that you sell. Like what have you found to be most effective?
Courses altogether, I think we have 39 altogether.
Different courses.
Yeah, and we have like for individuals, we have 4 main high ticket programs, and that's I think the lowest offers like $3,000. It goes all the way up to like $30,000 for a year.
How long are these courses?
Usually so we give them access to the virtual training. So we have one main virtual training portal that has like 47 hours of training. That's for any industry. Cause I have to teach them the frameworks. I have to teach them the psychology behind it, the framing, all that stuff. Cause I teach the question that the biggest question that company owners ask us or individuals ask us is, how are you guys able to duplicate in every industry? And all I can say, it's because of the frameworks that we're teaching. We're teaching the frameworks and we're teaching to recognize patterns. So I can use that same framework I just did for your dating offer. I can use that for life insurance. I can use that for cybersecurity. It doesn't really matter. I'm just plugging in the industry, the thing, but I'm still using the same framework. So we have like those 4 high ticket programs for individuals, but for companies, we have, it's all customized. So you might be paying like a monthly to us. I don't even know what you're paying. Hopefully it's good, but you're paying a monthly to us. And you might have you have a virtual training portal of ours, let's say it's 50 hours, and then maybe you want like 4 training sessions a week by one of our trainers, or if it's me, it's a little bit more money, obviously. And it just, it depends on what you want. Some clients want us to come in and like write out their sales structures with them, and teach them how to do more framing. It's kind of all customized. Now we have AI that we just that we launched. That
there's a
I'll bring it up today.
I'll show you the Hey-Gen of me speaking in Hindi. It's incredible. That my dialect is perfect. Speaking in Spanish, it's so the Hey-Gen for my face, 11 Labs for my voice. We've been doing all this stuff, and then AI for writing a lot of the sales copy. And then the other thing I found is that filming ads on my iPhone, crazy game changer. Using the super professional setup, but when you do meta ads with your iPhone, just drop the cost of the leads pretty significantly.
It's the patterns.
Because
people are used to like the video production, all stuff. So they're just like, hey, picking out the phone. It's a pattern.
By the way, just the first 5 seconds. The rest of the ad was the same body. It's just the first 5 seconds of me just sitting there on my phone. It's
sitting there on your phone or walking or getting out of your car. It's just you're interrupting a pattern. So they're scrolling all day, seeing the same things, and like yours is just different. It's a pattern.
So
we have like it's like 38, 39 training programs.
How many different low ticket, like talking under $100? Because I know you have a $7 book.
So we have like a $27 black book of questions. We have the NEPQ black book of cold prospecting. That's a new one. We have the NEPQ black book of insurance questions. We have the NEPQ black book of real estate. We have the NEPQ black book of objection handling. So those are more lower ticket. That's usually $27, and there's upsells. They might have like a 2 or 3 hour portal with it, like a little upsell. Now we're about to incorporate our AI Ask Jeremy feature, because I have a little bit under 34,000 hours of training content in AI now.
We did the exact same thing. We're using Poe to do. There's one for me.
We partnered with Paul Allen, not Microsoft Paul Allen. Paul Allen, founder of Ancestry.com. So he came to us. They sold Ancestry 3 years ago for a few dollars, and then he started his own AI company called Soar.ai. And they were looking for a partner in the sales training space that taught all industries. There's only about 3 of us in the world. It's us, Sandler, and Richardson. Sandler started in like 1971, long before us. And Richardson was like in the 80s. We're like the new kids on the block. And he loved our stuff. And so we partnered with him. And now we have 7q.ai. So it has all my training, not just the free stuff, but like industry specific for clients.
You put in queries and it prompts as
everything's in. You could be like, Jeremy, I sell IT consulting to freight companies. what would Jeremy say in the beginning cold call that would actually disarm the prospect? And then if it didn't work, what would he ask in a looping question? And then what tonality would he use? And it literally will get that specific.
Yeah.
Because we're very specific in our training. And then it'll show you, it'll like type it all out, what it is. And then it says, click here. And it takes you to a training where I actually taught just that subject.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like compartmentalized into 10 minutes.
Wow.
It's pretty, so it's kind of like Gong. Have you ever heard of Gong?
Yeah.
So Gong will like review your calls and stuff like that, but it just says, you need to get better at asking questions. Okay, well, which one should I ask? Which one should I change? It's like too generic. Ours is like industry specific to the T. You can literally type in that. You can be like, I sell men of action and my boss is, Michael Sartain, and I got this objection. Can you review this call and show me where I actually triggered this objection? And it will actually show you the amount of time when the prospect's guard went up, because I teach like to listen to what the prospect means, not just what they say. That's by the tone. So I've actually taught it how to read the tonality of the prospect in real time, bro. There's not much out there. So anyways, it's like, there's a waiting list now, but it launches in like 10, 12 days. And it's not going to be perfect the day we launch it. Our developer's saying it's about 83% there.
Yeah.
But 83% of, sometimes me is better than zero.
I used mine and it's scary. I'm like, how did you remember this? And then I remember it's watched 24,000 hours of me talking.
Well, that tells you you're expert. It's like a lot of these, Hormozy, I'm not personal friends with Hormozy, but we've talked 2 or 3 times. He'll call me, like ask me about a vendor that we were using or something. And a couple months ago when he called, we were talking about just all these coaches out there that in his space are like, I'm going to train you how to scale your business to 100 million a year. And they're like, and Hormozy is like, those guys never even scaled their own business to 20 million a year. How are you going to teach them how to scale to 100 million a year? So it's like, who do you take advice from? It's like, I'm getting sales training from this guy. I want to make 50 grand a month. It's like, well, how much did that guy make when he's a salesperson? 20? So how's the guy that made 20 grand a month as a salesperson going to teach you how to make 100 a month? Probably not going to happen. Or how's the guy that never really got the hottest girls, in your case, going to train you how to like build your network and get the hottest girls if he doesn't have the hottest girls? Like, what are you talking about?
I know he's controversial right now. Wes Watson came on my show.
This is the most controversial I've probably ever been in my life.
Wes Watson comes on the show and he goes, how are you going to try to give me dating advice when you're dating a 2?
I would never say that. Yeah, that's a little bit over,
He said that. I was like, bro, you're dating a 2. Like, what is wrong? And it's pretty funny.
Well, it's like taking financial advice. Like, well, I need to, I need to talk with my uncle because he's got a business. Oh, how is your uncle financially wealthy? Well, no, not really. So have you ever considered that if you take financial advice from somebody who's not financially wealthy themselves, it might be hard to become financially wealthy? That makes sense. Because that'd be like taking advice from your best friend who's been divorced 4 times about your current marriage. Probably not a good idea, right?
Yeah, I say most of you worship at church, but some of you worship at the altar. Some of you worship at church, but most of you worship at the altar of worthless people and their worthless opinions. It's wild. It's the financial guru who, like, bro, if you actually use these Bollinger Bands to predict market direction, you wouldn't be talking to me.
I mean,
be a billionaire.
This is why sometimes I have a problem with the influencer space. I'm just being real with you, because I don't like when somebody's asked me on a podcast, like, how does it feel to be an influencer? I'm like, I'm not an influencer. I have a social media following, but I have a real company. Like, we have hundreds of thousands of clients. We train NBC, we train Google, we train X, we train big corporations. Like, we're not an influencer. And I remember you brought up the financial thing. There was this guy in the space, I'm not going to say his name, but invited me to some dinner. Like, hey, come hear this guy. He's a new investor. He's got all these investment tips. He's like the best ever, blah, blah. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I come and talk to him. I was like, yeah, what's your background? You start on things. He's like, oh man, I worked for Goldman Sachs. It's like, oh, how long were you at Goldman Sachs? He's like, no, just for like 14 months, man. I was like, it wasn't my thing. I just learned everything, and now I started my own thing. And I'm like, do you think I'm sitting here like, am I going to invest with a guy who has 14 months of experience investing? Unlikely, because they don't have any wisdom or experience. Even if they did good in that 14 months, they don't have wisdom and experience when things go bad. Like, dude, like, and the influencer guy is a big name in the space, like, is bringing me to invest with this guy. Like, dude, I'm out, man. Like, don't ever bring me to people like that. Like, I'm not interested,
It's wild. Yeah.
I hate that.
It's the, I don't know if you've seen Goop, G-O-O-P, this guy, John Dorsey. He finds fitness influencers who are taking steroids and lying to their clients or whatever. CoffeeZilla, Spencer Cornelia.
I have no respect for amateurs who act like they know stuff that I have no respect for amateurs who act like they've done the thing they're teaching, because I know what it takes to get to that level of expertise.
Yeah, that is the part that's pretty frustrating. It is. And you wish that like, so for, like I said before, we already talked about this. Your resume when it comes to sales training should be enough to where you shouldn't even have to run ads.
But it's a perception
But
value.
it's a perception thing.
I mean, we have like a little bit under 40,000 testimonials in 5 years. I could literally go and just scroll down them for hours and hours and hours, but it's
Do you
not
ever do that on
necessarily.
sales call?
No,
I do. I do. I
mean,
get petty sometimes. If the guys give me a ton of objections, it'd work for him. He's fatter than you. It'd work for him. It'd work for him. I'll do this for 10 minutes and the dude will like break down. And we've closed so many deals from doing this. Like, tell me your objection. I'm going to find the guy right now.
Here's what I would do. I would show him like the worst looking guy. I'd be like, so if it worked for this guy who's 375 pounds and broke, well, prevent it from working for you, man.
Yeah.
And I just like laugh with him, like be playful. But yeah, it's because they have an inferior complex. So it doesn't matter if you show them all the proof. They're like, well, that's them, but it wouldn't work for me.
Victim. So again,
it's
you
an
see
inferior
how
complex.
safe I am? What you just said, it will. So people think narcissism is just I'm better than everyone else. Having a big ego is not I'm better than everyone else.
Yeah.
Having a big ego is also this won't work for me.
Exactly.
This works for everyone else,
when you're a
but it
victim,
won't work for me.
When you are a victim to think that, you also have a big ego on the reverse side.
Yes.
Yeah,
big
100%.
ego works both ways.
Yeah.
Thinking that you're just not worth is also a big ego. Because it's like, okay, you don't think that you're worth years. I'm going to give you 5 steps to improve your life. Oh, that won't work for me. That's just as big of an ego as, hey, I'm here at the restaurant. Seat me in the best table. I'm entitled. Do you know who I am? They're both big
You're
egos.
entitled to your victimhood.
Yeah, it's so wild. I get some of the biggest egos I've ever gotten are clients that dealt with some kind of trauma. And I'm very, very open to like, hey man, I understand you grew up in an Indian household or a Chinese household where mom and dad told you where to go to school, who to date, whatever. And you have this trauma now where you can't do anything without your family's approval. Well, let's work through that trauma.
Yeah. Because I'd be like, I mean, I can buy into your story if you want me to, but how's that going to help you find the woman of your dreams? Because we always say that with, I had my sister be like, I mean, I can buy into your story, but how's that going to, how are we going to help you sell more if I do that?
Dealing with burnout. This is a big one where one of two things. I've seen the guy who doesn't do well, or he has a good month and a bad month, good month and a bad month, and he'll get burnout. And I've also seen the guy who crushes it and he doesn't feel challenged by it or whatever, and he gets burned out. And this is, I'm not talking about my industry. I'm just talking about in general, talking to salespeople. I've seen these things happen. How do you deal with burnout specifically?
So when I was in sales, the way I dealt with burnout is, first of all, when you have a high skill level and you're closing at a high level, you typically don't get burnt out because you don't have to work as much.
Yeah.
So like, even back, I mean, I'm not going to throw out numbers, but I mean, I probably work less than 40 hours a week. And, you know, in the industries I sold in, the second best person, we're talking out of thousands, would make maybe a third of what I make, and they're working twice as much. But I just knew how to communicate. So instead of talking to 10 people to close 2, I could talk with 10 and close 8 or 9. So by default, I'm just going to I work less because I don't have to talk to as many people and I make way more money. That's one way you don't burn out. You burn out because you go through a lot of rejection. You don't hardly get rejection, and you know that you're doing it for them, not to them, right? Most salespeople have been wired to believe that you're doing it to them. That's why they get burned out, because it goes against human behavior to do something bad, to try to manipulate somebody. Selling is bad. It goes against human behavior. So when you think it's bad, like you're out to get them, so you make money, when you go to try to close, you have anxiety. I never thought of sales that way. I'm like, I'm doing this for them because I'm solving their problems. Without me, they can't get what they want. So that's why. So it's a different way of thinking. Does that make sense?
I have a meeting with my sales team every once in a while, and I'll bring up guys that are like, hey man, you know, we may have to blank this out, but like he literally talked about taking the gun out of his mouth. You don't understand. When you guys are doing this, you're dealing with a guy whose wife has left him. He can't see his kids anymore. He's having really negative thoughts, and you've changed his life.
This is really important.
This is really important, and they don't grasp that.
You have to be responsible. Like, if I didn't make a sale, I'm like, that's my fault. I would never blame a prospect. I'd be like, oh, what did I do? What did I say? What prevented them from moving forward that I could help? So I always reverse engineered. And most salespeople don't do that. They're like, they blame the prospect. And when you never take accountability, you never get better. So first of all, it's like, if you're always acquiring more skills, it kind of makes it fun, because you're like, oh, I tried this and I tried that. So it's like a game, if that makes sense. You work 60 hours a week, you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
But if you have the skill level where you don't have to work 60 hours a week, you work 40 and make twice as much, you typically don't burn out. And like I said, salespeople burn out because of most of the techniques they use trigger sales resistance that leads to lots of rejection. And they feel like they're going into a boxing ring every call. And so by the end of the week, after you've been punched around in your face, you landed some blows, they landed some blows, you're worn out emotionally. But if you, that's not what selling is. If I'm going in, I'm doing this for them and I'm opening them up and I know how to open them up and I emotionally connect and their guard's down, I don't get punched in the nose, man. I don't have those emotions at the end of the week. I don't have the anxiety. So by default, I don't burn out.
Where do you, I mean, even the best, salesperson in the world deals with some level of rejection. Where do you compartmentalize rejection, or is it just completely ignored?
To me, it was just like, let's say the first job I had in college, let's say they don't buy and they shut the door. I'm like, I would always say, hey, sorry, I couldn't help you. And I just move on to the next thing. I'm like, I couldn't help them. Just move to the next person. Like I would never even think about it twice. It's kind of like Tom Brady when he throws an interception. He thinks about it for 10 seconds and then he's thinking about how to prevent it from happening next time. He just goes out and performs. Whereas the other quarterback just sits there and like is in their head. You can even see it on the sideline. Yeah. They throw an interception. They're so in their head. You just know they're going to suck the rest of the game.
If the guy ran the right route, he would have been.
Literally, if they're in their head like that, you know they're going to be horrible the rest of the game.
Yeah.
But Tom Brady was never like that. He just kind of was like, and looked at it like, I shouldn't have done that, and just goes back out there and does it. Yeah. That's how you have to. But you get that confidence by your skill level. Tom Brady would never have that confidence if he sucked at football. Yeah. He got it because of his skill level. Skill level always breeds confidence. I always say you can get pumped up, you can get motivated in sales or persuasion or going out and find the woman of your dreams. But when you say hello, if you don't know what to say, if you don't know what to ask, if you don't know how to get the guard down, you're going to get punched back in the face. And then where does that motivation go? Back down to where your skill level is. Nothing more, nothing less. So you want high confidence, you get high skill level. If they learn the stuff that you teach them on how to build this, net worth and like be a high valued man and how to come across that, by default, they have success. Success leads to confidence. There's really no other way around it. People literally always ask me, how do I get more confidence? I'm like, get more skill. You get more skill, you sell more. When you had a week where you sold more, where did your confidence level go? Oh, up here, right? And then you don't have the skill and you don't sell, but it goes back down to your skill level. So it's just learning the skills gives you confidence, man.
What is artificial intelligence going to do in the remote closer or even remote setter space? What do you think?
I think for every industry, there's a couple of things. So first of all, we'd have to all be an idiot to think that the government's not going to regulate AI. And I think a lot of people out there that are like, oh, it's going to replace all these salespeople are thinking there's this thing called the FTC. And as soon as grandma buys something from AI that was kind of expensive over the phone, and her son walks in, he's like, I can't believe, spend 10 grand on this from grandma. Going to call the AG, there's going to be regulations. So I believe probably in the next couple of years, maybe sooner, when AI calls for a sales call, it'll have to say, hey, this is an AI agent, whatever. Would you like to continue to talk or would you like to be transferred to a live representative? Yeah. I think people eventually will start picking the live representatives. They just will because they think AI is going to manipulate them, okay? So I do believe it's going to replace small ticket stuff where there's not really a big decision. So I think it'll schedule appointments. Like if somebody missed an appointment, it might schedule like a haircut or schedule like stuff that's like basic. I definitely think it's going to replace that. But it doesn't have the emotional connection. It just sounds scripted right now, unless somebody teaches it how to emotionally connect, which most people don't know how to do,
The concept of assume the sale. Do you assume the sale? Is that something you teach?
Yes, but at a certain point.
Okay.
Because the reason why most salespeople struggle with getting the prospect's guard down is they come off too assumptive too early. Now, what do I mean by that? How much trust or credibility do you have with the prospect in the first 30 seconds of a conversation or a minute or two? Even if they book a call and they've seen you in your space for 3 years, they don't have necessarily the credibility with that rep. So if you start trying to assume from the very beginning, you're typically going to have the guard come up. So example, I might say like an assumptive thing at the beginning, like, okay, towards the end of the call, if you feel we're a good fit for you and we feel you're a good fit for our program, we'll try to get started. Fair enough? Well, people think that's okay, but what about the A-types? They're like, well, yeah, okay, but I didn't say I'm ready to buy yet. I'm just looking. You're going to trigger resistance because you're assumptive there. Nobody believes that you're going to sit there. If they're like, here's my credit card, I'm ready to pay. You're like, nope, you're not a good fit for the program. Like nobody believes that. Like it's a technique that nobody believes. Like it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But if I just relanguaged it and said, towards the end of the call, if you feel like, hey, this might be what you're looking for, we can talk about possible next steps. Would that help you? They're not like, no, we cannot talk about possible next steps. See, I'm neutralizing that because it's early in the conversation. So I keep the guard down. Now, as I build the gap, as I help them feel that pain and have a fear of future that pain, then I can get more assumptive because now I have pain, emotional pain tied in with the problem. In the beginning, you don't have that. So I got to assume, but I'm doing it later.
One of the things that I see that you teach that I think some people are confused by is the confused tone.
Well, that's because they're not clients.
Right. So I get it. I understand what's like, what did you mean by that? Like,
Yeah.
I understand, but can you explain for people maybe who misunderstand why you're talking about that?
That's the dabbler, right? Because they watch it on YouTube and they don't understand the context or something. So a confused tone, you're only using it in certain contexts. It's not like I'm confused of 107, I got dementia confused. It's like when they say something like some type of problem or some consequence, you come across like you didn't quite understand what they meant. So like if the prospect's like, man, I'm just having some issues. Like I'm just, I just have a lot of stress. Like I just can't find the right girl or something. Like, hold on. How do you mean by stress? So I'm confused. So that confused tone, what it does in the subconscious is it basically says, oh, he didn't understand what I meant by stress. I need to explain that better. And now they start to emotionally explain that, what they mean by stress. So that's where you use a confused tone, Yeah. It just opens people. I'm confused. I didn't quite understand that. Can you clarify for me? That's all it is.
I've done this before. So on my show, Access Vegas, where a girl will say something, I was like, hold on, stop. Everyone stop what you're saying. Say that again. So you walked in on your boyfriend doing what? I'm a little confused. Go ahead and you take the floor.
Hold on, you did what?
Yeah,
because now they open up.
Yeah.
It's the subconscious just says, basically, he didn't understand me. But if I don't use that confused tone in that context, if I use if I was a curious, like, oh, what do you mean by stress? Oh, it was nothing. I don't open them up emotionally. The confused tone literally triggers their brain to clarify and open up emotionally. And if I don't master that, they don't.
The worst advice you've seen in this space?
In like the training space or high ticket space?
Yeah.
The worst advice I've ever seen, God, there's a lot. Where do I start? Worst advice by like the space in general or just one person saying something?
I'll tell you, in my space, the worst advice is go be yourself. That is the worst advice.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, for sales, it's probably, just, play the numbers game, like just get in there, get some reps and you'll get there. And I'm just like, we'd have to be idiot to want to have a strategy that says, just get in there, play the numbers game. You should figure out that's not a fucking strategy at all. That's where broke people go to die. Yeah. The path to someday is the path that leads to nowhere, So it's like, if you get trained by somebody who's actually mastered the damn thing itself, it's pretty damn hard to fail at that point. Yeah. Like you have to really try hard to fail at that point. People fail because they don't freaking learn the skills to do it. Like, it's really hard to fail at anything if you know how to do it. How do you know how to do it? Well, you get trained by somebody who's actually been really, really good at the damn thing you want to do. It's not rocket science. It's like, I want to be a neurosurgeon. Am I going to wing it? No, I'm going to be trained by people who've actually mastered brain surgery. And now, wow, magically I could get the same result. People just don't conceptualize that. So it's up to us to frame that where they start to understand that better.
Well, the ladies out there, what if you were going into surgery, neurosurgery, and the guy, you're like, hey, where'd you go to school? It's like, well, I didn't go to school, but I just have really good energy. I just have a really good vibe when it comes to this. And so I meditated beforehand and I just got in touch with my third eye chakra. It's like, yo, what school did you go to? Like, what would you think?
That's like saying, that's like the commercials. Like I stayed at a Holiday Inn last night, That's basically, that's the same thing.
Kruger effect.
Yeah, exactly, man.
It's pretty funny. So I've never heard anyone ask you this. I've watched a bunch of your interviews. What do you do outside of the sales training, away from sales? You're in one of my favorite cities in the world. You're in Scottsdale. Yeah. What is you have a favorite restaurant? You go
I got some cool friends to hang out with, that are in the space. I'm really good friends with Tommy Mellows, the CEO of A1 Garages, friends with Pace Morby, Cody Sperber, a lot of the real estate guys down there. So sometimes we get together, go to dinner. I've just got some other, I only associate myself with people who are going places. They don't even have to be like the wealthiest person in the world, but I've got some friends that, they're doing things, right? So we talk about business, we talk about work, we collaborate. I hang out with my kids, I've got 5 kids. I'm divorced, 4 of them are older, 24, 22, 20, 18. Yes, I got married at like 21, like a kid. And then I have a 7-year-old. So, we do things, different things. We golf, we just hang out. Sometimes sometimes, you know what it is. Like, there are some months where I am never by myself, literally for months on end. So sometimes there'll be like a Friday night where there is like, I have no plans and I just go sit on the couch and watch Ancient Aliens and order takeout.
There you go.
And I am the happiest person in the world doing nothing. You know what it is? Because eventually you always wanted to be out there doing everything. And then when it's like when you're all over the place, like 3 podcasts one a day, then the next day you're speaking engagement, then you're doing 3 training calls. And then like the next week you're in this city doing this. It's like, eventually you're just like, I just kind of really like doing nothing.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm sitting there just like looking at TV, and I have to explain to my PA and my girlfriend, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do anything. Do I need any help with anything? No, nothing. I'm just going to sit right
I'm
here.
like a vegetable. I just need to be a vegetable for a day or two, and then that way I can recuperate. And a lot of people, I don't think they understand that. You know, they think it's like you just want to go out and do things all the time, but eventually, like, especially when you're with somebody, like Ben, my videographers are with me all of the time.
Yeah.
Like literally, we do like almost 200 reels a month. So it's like they're everything I say. Like I'll walk from my office down the hallway to the bathroom in the office building, and they'll like follow me and like ask me a question for a reel.
Yeah.
Like a 30-second reel, because we got to fit it in. So sometimes it's nice to like decompose, de-stress, do nothing. You know?
That's incredible. Do you have like a favorite restaurant?
And that's why every man needs a woman who gives them peace. Peace. You know what? That sometimes it's hard for women to understand what that means. I think a lot of times, you know, fully vulnerable. That's why I broke up with my girlfriend, because I couldn't get peace.
Yeah.
You know, there's just stuff there, and I love her to death. So I just couldn't get peace.
There's two things here. Number one, you talk about your friends. I think a lot of people, so I go back home for Thanksgiving, you know, or I go back home for Christmas back to Dallas, and I'll hang out with some friends of mine who, I mean, just for lack of a better term, they're just normal people. They aren't really doing anything, but I still love them. They're my friends, but I don't hit them up for like SEO or sales training ideas.
Sure.
What I do find myself hanging out with more is guys who are extremely successful. And it's not because I'm like arrogant or I think I'm better. I just don't have the time to not be around, to be around people who don't solve problems for me or people who I can solve problems for. So I thought it was interesting what you said. The guys you spend the most time with, you guys are at dinner, probably at a place that you really enjoy. And I will almost guarantee you the conversation is solving problems for one another.
We help each other all the time.
Yeah.
And I just paid $250,000 to join the Zenith group with Tony Robbins and Dean. It's their highest level thing. They don't even market it. It's above the platinum thing.
Yeah.
$250,000 a year for 4 events. There's 25 people in there, 4 billionaires. So like I am trying to be the poorest person in that room. My company's pretty successful, but I want to learn from billionaires. I want to be around these people because there's obviously things that they have learned, or maybe people they had in place that I don't have. And I want those connections, and I will pay that because of the cost of inaction, of not paying, is costing me 100-fold more than the $250,000 it takes just to go to that thing.
And the other thing you mentioned about the peace thing, when men communicate with other men in general, like, or just not, it doesn't have to be men, just entrepreneurs communicating with each other. There's a level of respect because like you knew this in junior high and high school. If things went nuclear, you start fighting each other. And that's just not the case when you're dealing with women. You have to deal with emotional outbreaks in a different way. For me, when men communicate with each other, there's a level of respect. For a woman, in order for her to show me she loves me, that means when she's upset, she doesn't break my peace because she's upset and feels that she has the entitlement or the right to break it up. When she it's not that I can make her feel good all the time. It's that when she doesn't feel good, she doesn't throw a monkey wrench in my day. That's how you show me you love me.
When they're constantly testing you all the time and looking for validation all the time, emotionally, for a man that, you know, is going places, building something big. I always call it like empire building. That's really, really hard because it drains. So scientifically, it actually drains. So the prefrontal cortex part of your brain stores your memory and it stores your creativity part of your brain. And when you're in a relationship where you're constantly being like constant validation, constant like just emotional drain, it actually drains your memory and it drains your creativity. So you just can't perform. Like scientifically, you cannot perform to the level that you're supposed to because you don't have peace. And I think a lot of times when you tell women, like, I just need peace, they don't really necessarily understand what that means.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that here's the biggest thing. I tell women this all the time: ask your man how he feels, but don't tell him how he feels. Because when you do that, then you're breaking peace.
Yeah, because to a man that you're criticizing me, where like I'm the provider, I'm the tribe leader here, and you're questioning my judgment. You're constant. So it comes across as criticism where they don't believe it's criticism. They're just trying to help. But when it's constant, like if it's here and there, it's fine.
Yeah.
But if it's like every day, multiple times, then the man's like, well, I can't do anything right. I can't keep her happy. I've got to exit the relationship. And that's when the relationship starts to go. Now, men make mistakes too. There's definitely things I made mistakes in too.
It is the wildest thing when you are young and you see a guy dating a stunningly beautiful woman and then he breaks up with her and he's like, yo, man, I couldn't deal with that headache. And you're like, bro, she was so hot. I would do anything to deal with that headache. And then when it happens to you, you're like, oh, I don't get any sleep. Like I have to deal with all this drama. I'm stressed out all the time. She leaves some fadeaway, passive aggressive message and then doesn't pick up the phone. It's like, oh, and then, you know, you're in your 20s and like, but they're really hot. So you kind of deal with it. Yeah. And then you get older and then you're just like, yo, I don't.
When you're older, you're like, I just want peace.
Yeah,
like, I will be with somebody that's half as good looking if they can just give me peace and just be chill. Like, that's all I just wanted to have peace and be chill. That's it, man. I'm the happiest guy in the world.
The most misunderstood thing about Jeremy Miner.
Most people don't know who I probably really am. And there's reasons why I do that. How familiar are you with like Machiavellian?
Pretty. I've read the books. Yeah.
It's interesting to me because people always give me advice and I'm looking at their, like how big their business is. I'm always judging like the advice you're giving me, like, are you an expert at what I'm an expert at? So I always have to compare. Like, when you're giving me this advice, are you really an expert in that or is that just your opinion? And you always have to be very careful because people would always give me the advice like, you need to do more content around your personal life, your personal life, your personal life, your personal life. Yet I have the biggest sales training company in the world in the B2B space.
Yes.
I'm the third largest in the B2B space. People tell me the advice. I got companies like way bigger than theirs, but they're like, you need to do like way more content. Like people need to learn who you are. And I'm like, actually, I like what I do here because it's more of a mystery. So people wonder. Yeah. So they keep coming back. So it's psychologically how you do it. Like obviously the proof's in the pudding. So a lot of people don't know a lot about my personal life because I don't post a lot about it because people don't come to me because they're interested in like what I do on a Saturday. They come to me because they want to learn how to sell more. And we incorporate a little bit. And, you know, like 4 or 5 months ago, we started doing like 50-50. And we went from like probably about 50,000 followers a month on IG to like 110,000, like really, really quick. But the other people coming in, they weren't looking for what we offered. So it was like, we're just getting a bunch of followers that weren't even like salespeople. It didn't make any sense. So we can go more general and have, you know, 5 million followers on IG, but we're a real company. We want like my followers, like they're salespeople. They want to sell more. They're coaches, they're business owners. And sometimes it's good to leave a little bit of mystery there.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that one. You should talk to Shar. She's the one who's throwing my birthday tonight. She's my social media. She's my content manager.
Yeah, okay.
And Shar goes over this all the time. We had a video that went mega viral, like 33 million views on YouTube or whatever. Got us a bunch of followers that didn't really want the program.
Yeah.
And then what happened afterwards is we started making content and I started the podcast back up. I had stopped the podcast for a while. Yeah. We started the podcast back up and then sales went way back up through the roof. Yeah. And I started doing things that were more niche specific. Yeah. And I really stopped caring about people hating me. Yeah. And that is what, I mean, and I'll be honest,
your business.
It's Grant Cardone. Like that, like Grant, for all the problems that he has or the positives or negatives, he does not care what you think about him and he makes more money than you. Those two things are true.
You got to learn from, I mean, look, if they're doing something right, you can criticize them all you want, but I'd rather learn from them.
Yes.
We might not agree with, you know, different sales techniques or whatever, but obviously he's a great marketer. So I would be stupid not to learn from other people, right?
Yeah. The historical event that you think is underrated.
Historical event that I think is underrated. The Eastern Front in World War II. It's not talked a lot about. It's more D-Day in America. And I love history. I love World War II history. So the Eastern Front is not really talked about like D-Day on the American side. It's hardly talked at all. And like you're talking like 29 million Russians died in World War II. Like how many Americans died? Like G is like 500,000, like crazy.
The United States was the fullback that drove the ball over the 1 yard line. Sure. That's what it was. Yeah. And what Patton did at the end, chasing down the remainder of the Third Reich, that was definitely something. But I don't think people understand like the Germans were these waves just crashing into Russia and the incredible ineptitude of Stalin.
So many, like you take out like 10,000 soldiers, here's another 10. Like they just kept coming, man. Eventually, even the United States hadn't got into World War II. Eventually, Russia would have probably taken over. It would have taken longer.
25 more deaths. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize
the citizens and freaking
Germany gets all the way to Moscow. The Germans get all the way to Moscow. That 25 million Russians end up dying trying to fight them off.
Crazy, man.
And then the German army ends up freezing to death in the winter of 41. I can't remember which winter it is.
Winter of 41 going into 42. Yeah. And then you had Stalingrad.
Yeah. And then the remainder of what was left is what the Americans and the French and the Americans and the British.
I mean, you're talking about the German military had like 8 million soldiers. And I think by the end of the war, you know, and you're talking like the prime soldiers, like 18 to like maybe 26, 28. But by the end of the war, it was like 13, 14-year-olds and mainly like 50 and 60-year-olds fighting at the very end. And obviously that's not going to last very long.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Very good. And then what is an uncomfortable truth that you believe in?
uncomfortable truth that
inconvenient truth
that I believe in. You know, I don't know if it's that controversial. I think most people kind of believe this, but most people don't really think about it. I believe that we hardly know anything about what happens after death. I believe that I do believe in God. I believe that there is a creator. Just even the finite details of a woman's reproductive system. I just don't think we really believe, like every belief that we have, I think there's some truths, but I don't think we hardly know anything. I think we know this much. And I think after this life, I think we'll all find out. You know? It's an inconvenient truth. Every religion, I respect everybody's religious beliefs. I just think at the end of the day, we still all know nothing.
Yeah, death is a one-way mirror. Yeah,
exactly. That's the thing. You know,
incredible, man. Okay, where can people find?
And I love alien discussion.
Yeah, the alien discussion.
For sure.
Yes.
I think that's amazing. I love extraterrestrial beings. I mean, we're all aliens. You know, really. You know, octopuses might look at us as like, dude, these people are aliens. They're on our home turf.
Have you read about panspermia?
What is that? I've heard of that.
So we have these creatures that are here on this planet that they've thawed out of ice. They're very small, like almost microbial. Yeah, Antarctica, just different places. Okay. And they're called tardigrades. You can look up. They look like water bears.
Okay.
And they were frozen and then they're reanimated after thousands of years, tens of thousands of years.
Yeah.
So scientists were like, how is this possible that they went into stasis for this long and they're still able to live? So they did an experiment. They took they took these tardigrades out to the ISS and they let them out in hard vacuum and they lived. These are biological carbon-based creatures here on Earth that lived in hard, it's like a xenomorph, in hard vacuum. So now they're like, okay, this thing is so small that it's not going to be affected by massive levels of heat, massive levels of cold. It can be in stasis for a long period of time. And then they was like, okay, what if this thing crashed into the Earth, traveling at some massive speed?
Yeah.
And then, so the belief is that life on this planet may have come on an asteroid with some extremely extremophile. It's called their extremophiles. We find them also at like the bottom of the ocean. And so that may, the evolutionary adaptation to, again, what is the evolutionary adaptation for hard vacuum? There's none. There's nothing that's ever been in hard vacuum until the 1950s.
Things always change,
Yeah. So it's like, what is the adaptation for it? And the adaptation was because maybe life came from a hard vacuum. Life came from an asteroid that hit the planet.
And that's the thing that none of us know, because like 100 years from now, they might discover more about that, and it's a different theory. It's hard to know what to know. I do believe humans have been here on the Earth for millions of years.
Yeah.
I even believe when I don't believe in the 6,000 year with Adam and Eve, because in the King James version of the Old Testament, it says multiply and replenish the earth.
Yeah.
Well, replenish means that it was already replenished before.
Yeah.
Well, replenish means there was other humans before. So maybe there's cycles, people get wiped out and then put new people in.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I guess we'll find out.
Yes.
So that's, that's controversial, but King James version says replenish. That implies there's other people
before. There were people before, yeah. No, I mean, there's also problems about Cain and Abel and like they had wives. I'm like, where'd their wives come from? Like, it's just stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and that's why it's like, it's an incomplete thing. It's like the Bible, and I would say I'm Christian, but the Bible in Latin means library books.
Yeah.
And who decided which books were going to be in it?
Yeah, there's
the Roman Catholic Church decided which books, and then they decided which books they didn't want because they didn't believe in it anymore.
You can look this up. There's a 3rd John. There's a book of Maccabees for those of you who are Protestant. There's a ton
the book of the 2nd and 3rd book of Enoch. Book of Thomas talks about the preexistence of souls. Like we lived as souls before we were born. We could definitely go down some rabbit holes.
Awesome, man. Okay, where can people find you?
So we just launched 7q.ai. So I can go to 7q.ai. That's our Ask Jeremy feature. Paul Allen is the founder of Ancestry.com. We're partners with him. And there's a waiting list. I think we launched in about 12 days. So they can enroll in the waiting list on 7q. So just the number 7q.ai. And once it's released, they'll get a text or a email, and it'll just give them permission that they can opt in. I think we give them 14 days free. And then after that, it's like, we have them pay $47 once a month to learn how to sell more and ask me every question, every sales question they want to ask. It's probably, it's a big investment, I know, but I'm assuming, going to go out on a limb, that they might make more than the $47 a month in extra sales. I don't know.
Incredible.
But 7q.ai.
And then you are on IG and YouTube.
Yeah, they can follow me on IG, YouTube. They've got you can put my handles in there.
Awesome.
So, cool, man.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
I'm excited to go to your birthday tonight, dude.
Yes.
We're the same age. I turned 48 in March.
You turned 48 in March? Okay, very cool, very cool.
Yep.
It's funny, Chris Corsani, who's coming, he's the top plastic surgeon in the city. He's coming, he and I are almost exactly the same age.
Isn't it weird? Do people always say, like, you don't look your age?
Well,
but
do you know Carol O'Connor? I use this example all the time.
Yeah.
All in the Family, season 1, Carol O'Connor, he's 47 years old. Do you guys remember what Archie Bunker looked like in that season 1?
I remember.
Just go back and look at pictures on the internet of Archie Bunker.
Yeah,
just like we're the same age as Archie Bunker.
If you take care of yourself
Yes.
and you got good mental clarity, and I eat a lot of blueberries, maybe that's what it is.
That must be it.
Then you don't age. I go back and I see some of my old high school friends from a long time ago, and they look like they're in their mid-60s, and I'm like, bro, what's going on? You wonder why your wife doesn't want to sleep with you. Like, get in shape, man.
I play basketball still several times a week, and I'm almost 50 years old, so yeah.
100%, baby.
All right. Awesome, man. Thank you, man. I'm going to see you all tonight. Thank you guys for joining us, man. I really hope you guys like some of the new formats. We have a new Q&A format that we're doing for the podcast, and several incredible guests coming up. I really appreciate you guys joining us, and we'll see you all next week.